This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Fanning the flames. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. Iran not making many friends in the Middle East right now on day 20 of the war. Operation Epic Fury. NBC's Richard Engel.
There were multiple attacks overnight on oil and gas facilities across the Middle East with global implications.
Iran attacking energy facilities in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar. Mike Tobin at Fox News.
It all started with the Israelis firing on the South Pars oil field in Iran, largest oil field in the world. Qataris are a partner. But that prompted the Iranians to say they'll burn it all down.
Both Qatar and Saudi Arabia warning the action taken by Iran represents a dangerous escalation of the war. Correspondent Trey Yingst in Israel.
The Iranian regime still has the ability to fight in this conflict, and they are threatening not only Israel but also Gulf countries with this ballistic missile fire and trying to choke off the global energy supply.
Meantime, the fight goes on for the future of Iran. War Secretary Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon this morning says efforts continue to dismantle and degrade the Iranian regime.
We're winning decisively and on our terms. We're hunting and striking death and destruction from above.
The Israeli Air Force isn't doing too bad either. The last couple days, they've taken out 3 key Iranian leaders. Retired Brigadier General John Teichert.
I would not want to find myself anywhere near the top of an organizational chart in the Iranian military or in the Iranian Internal Security Service.
Army General Keith Kellogg says the U.S. and Israel should take out all of Iran's leaders.
I'd be satisfied when they kill them all. And I think we're just kind of taking them all on at the same time. I think later on, this will be written about 10 years from now or 5 years from now, what a successful operation it was.
The Iranian regime responded to the assassinations by dropping cluster bombs on Tel Aviv and the West Bank. An elderly Israeli couple and several Palestinian women at a beauty salon were killed. Top U.S. intel officials back on Capitol Hill today. They're testifying for a second straight day about the threat posed by Iran. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard.
The regime in Iran appears to be intact but largely degraded due to attacks on its leadership and military capabilities. Iran's strategic position has been significantly degraded.
Gabbard joined by the heads of the FBI and CIA in offering a global threat assessment today to members of Congress. Japan's prime minister meeting today at the White House with President Trump.
Sanae Takaichi won a landslide election last month. She's known for her conservative politics, forthright views, and won the endorsement of President Trump. Strong, powerful, and wise were the president's words. Their relationship is being tested, however, by the war in Iran. He's asked for Japanese minesweepers and Navy forces to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Prime Minister Takaichi has declined and appears to have Japanese public opinion on her side. Japan, though, relies on U.S. forces. That includes about 50,000 U.S. troops to deter threats from China and North Korea.
Correspondent Jonathan Savage. Vice President Vance says President Trump will announce soon action aimed at driving down sky-high gas prices. This as the price at the pump approaches the $4 a gallon mark.
When we know that we have a problem, we're doing everything that we can to address it.
The VP describing the price surge since the start of the war as a temporary blip. The wait is long and it's getting longer at the nation's airports. The problem has been compounded with spring break travel. TSA workers calling in sick because they're not getting paid, and they're not getting paid because of the partial government shutdown. Aviation expert Tom Costello.
I got to tell you, if you're going to be traveling over the next wave of spring break, get here early. Wherever you are in the country, airports are seeing delays of 2-3 hours. You got to be here early to get in line and make sure you make your flight.
60,000 TSA workers have been going without a paycheck for over a month now because of the fiscal impasse on Capitol Hill. There's a warm-up going on the West Coast. It is sweltering in parts of California California, Arizona, and Nevada.
We had May sometimes with 90 to 100 degree weathers, but not in March. This is ridiculous.
That woman in Phoenix, where temperatures are already breaking records.
The Phoenix area hit 100 degrees earlier than any other year in recorded history, and already firefighters have been responding to heat emergencies on local hiking trails.
Near Palm Springs, California, Wednesday, it reached a steamy 108 degrees. It was 94 in Vegas. The field is set. It's time to go dancing. The March Madness men's college basketball tournament tips off today.
16 first-round games highlight the action today, including top overall seed Duke tipping off against 16th-seeded Siena in the East region. Blue Devils star freshman Cameron Boozer won't be taking the Saints lightly.
For us, it doesn't matter who our opponent is. We're going to stay locked in, stay focused.
The defending national champion Florida Gators begin their run as the top seed in the South region on Friday.
Correspondent Erica Herskowitz still to come on the Noon Report for a Thursday. Local high school basketball coach under fire. Truckers react to the pain at the pump, and Maple Weekend is this weekend.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, looking at a fairly uneventful weather pattern in the short term with a little moderation in the temperatures as well. I'll be back with forecast details. We'll see you in 10 minutes.
All right, see you then. Thank you, Kevin. March Madness bouncing into Buffalo today. The Queen City hosting the men's NCAA tournament for the first time in 4 years. Lucy Herb drove all the way from southeastern Pennsylvania to watch the games today with her daughter.
We have an annual tradition, mother-daughter tradition, of going to NCAA or conference tournaments together. We're really excited to be here. It's an incredible place. There's lots of great food and lots of great basketball.
6 games on tap at the KeyBank Center today and Saturday. Experts say the 2 days of competition will bring in close to 20,000 fans and generate $8 million for the Buffalo economy. A local sports legend has been relieved of his duties at Notre Dame High School in Batavia, New York. Mike Rapone, the winningest boys basketball coach in Section 5 history, is on administrative leave. He was let go as athletic director at the private school. WIVB's Trina Catterson.
The matter in question does not center around Notre Dame students or the Notre Dame campus. We've learned Rapone was employed at Batavia Downs, but he recently resigned. We then contacted Batavia Downs, who said it doesn't comment on personnel matters. So we're working to learn if there is a connection between his resignation and the incident that caused Rapone to be placed on leave. Rapone has been involved at Notre Dame for 44 years, acting as a basketball coach, assistant principal, and athletic director. He was also selected to the New York State Basketball Hall of Fame in 2023.
The Genesee County Sheriff, Batavia Police, and New York State Police all say they had nothing to do with this investigation into the coach. The price at the pump jumped another 4 cents a gallon overnight, and local truckers are feeling the impact of fuel costs. Here's what a few had to say to News Talk 930 at a fueling station in Buffalo.
They fluctuate nonstop. This war doesn't help. That's why it's going up right now, is because of the war. On average, this truck costs about $900 to fill up every time. You just don't think about it. We got a job to do, and whatever the fuel price is, you don't look at it. You just fill and go.
Yeah, the fact they're spiking is a little scary. All that money is definitely adding up.
Yeah, it's crazy. The jump has been very extreme very quickly.
The average price for a gallon of diesel fuel right now is $5.24 a gallon. Gasoline is averaging $3.88 a gallon right now. Some Pennsylvania municipalities go without local police so they can save money. But that could change if Dauphin County Democrat Justin Fleming has his way. He's introduced a bill that imposes a fee on local communities for patrol services that are offered by the state police. 2/3 of municipalities in Pennsylvania rely on state troopers. This legislation faces an uncertain future in the state Senate. New York Congressman Nick Langworthy sponsoring a bill that would pay TSA workers amid the ongoing partial government shutdown. Right now, they are not collecting a paycheck, and so they're not showing up at work. That's led to long lines at the airports.
By making this bill law, we will send a huge message to the men and women of the TSA that we actually value and respect their service, that we won't treat their lives as political pawns in a game.
Democrats are refusing to fund the Department of Homeland Homeland Security because of ICE immigration enforcement tactics. The New York State Department of Corrections says an incident this week at a prison near Utica highlights the need to combat threats of drones that deliver contraband to inmates. On Saturday, a drone dropped a package containing 2 knives and a cell phone inside the Marcy Correctional Facility. Governor Hochul has included a proposal in her budget that would restrict drone activity over state prisons. The governor says she's on a mission to lower the cost of car insurance.
Insurance bills are going up every single month, and enough is enough. It's time to stop the insanity.
The governor's plan relies heavily on car insurance companies themselves reducing their rates. That's something that is unlikely to happen. The average New Yorker, by the way, pays $4,000 a year in auto insurance. One person dead following an apartment fire in Corning, New York. The 2-story multi-unit apartment caught fire early Wednesday on Wall Street. The victim, identified as Lynn Francis Mason. Several firefighters sustained minor injuries. Pennsylvania politicians are pushing for new support to help veterans dealing with head trauma. That story new at noon from Family Life's Brian Query.
The Pennsylvania State Senate has passed a resolution backing more funding and research into treatments for veterans with brain injuries. One program highlighted is the Aurelius program at Harrisburg University, which uses therapies like hyperbaric oxygen, magnetic stimulation, and exercise to help rewire the brain. Republican Senator Doug Mastriano says early results show promising success rates for veterans. The resolution also urges action at the federal level, encouraging the United States Senate to create a giant program to further study these emerging treatments. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. The Brighton, New York Police Department is responding to at least 20 calls of vehicles being broken into. It happened early yesterday in the area of Warrington Drive, Oakdale Drive, and Chadbourne Road. Neighbors report having money stolen and items being rummaged through. Others had windows completely knocked out. Again, this happened in Brighton, New York early yesterday. No arrests made at this point. Maple Weekend is this weekend all across New York State. It is a time for maple makers to showcase their wares to the general public.
Maple Weekend helps the farmer retail their product rather than wholesale it out, and it gives the local community an opportunity to meet the farmer, see how the product's made, and get to taste it.
That's Carl Smith. He owns a maple farm in Hamburg, New York.
Normally we start in mid-February and we get done about the 1st of April, and normally we will make about 500 gallons of syrup per year.
New York is the second leading maple syrup producer in the country. Only Vermont makes more. It takes about 45 gallons of sap, by the way, to make just 1 gallon of maple syrup. Sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon. I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, action on the ice at Madison Square Garden last night saw the Blue Shirts get doubled up by the Devils 6-3. The Rangers who scored were Vladislav Gavrikov, Mika Zibanejad, and Connor Sherry. The Penguins were in North Carolina tangling with the Hurricanes. With Captain Sidney Crosby back on the ice, the Pens battled back a couple of times to send the game into overtime. But Carolina's Sean Walker found the back of the net with just 28 seconds left in the OT. 6-5 the final. Crosby finished with a goal and an assist. Erik Karlsson scored twice and dished out a helper. Out west, another overtime game saw the puck bounce the right way for Philadelphia. Literally, from behind the net, Noah Cade scored the game winner, bouncing the puck off of Anaheim's keeper 2 minutes into the OT. The Flyers won it 3-2. Also skating to wins, the Caps, Stars, and Flames. In the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder won their 10th straight game, dismantling Brooklyn 121-92. Celtics 120-99 winners over Golden State. It was Portland 127, Indiana 119. Toronto all over the Bulls, 139-109. Minnesota blew out Utah, 147-111. The Pelicans knocked off the Clippers, 124-109. Dallas fell to the Hawks, 135-120. Memphis took care of business with the Nuggets, 125-118. And the Lakers came out on top of Houston, 124-116. College hoops, the field of 64 now set. Prairie View A&M eliminated Lehigh 67-55, and Miami of Ohio a 10-point winner over SMU 89-79. That is a look at sports.
All right, thank you very much, Randy. And still to come on the Noon Report, epic fury only grows. Winter heat in the Southwest, and the Finns have it when it comes to happiness.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. In a recent viral social media post, a podcaster named Akash Gupta shared results from a 2024 study of the human brain. The study, he said, should mass humble every AI lab on the planet. That's a quote. In it, scientists digitally mapped a cubic millimeter of the human brain, equivalent to 2 grains of sand, and the results mind-boggling. The abstract for the paper described the speck as containing, and I quote, about 57,000 cells, 230 millimeters of blood vessels, and about 150 million synapses, comprising 1.4 petabytes. Now, a petabyte is a measure of memory capacity. So, as one website described it, a typical DVD holds 4.7 gigs of data. That means a single terabyte of storage would hold 217 DVD quality movies, while a single petabyte of storage would hold over 220,000 DVD quality movies. Now, since the whole human brain is much, much larger than a cubic millimeter, this speck, that means that every person is walking around with a few 100 million DVDs worth of data in their heads. And that, Gupta concluded, puts our work with AI within a much larger context. Quote, we're building AI systems that loosely mimic neural networks while still unable to fully read the wiring diagram of a single cubic millimeter of the thing we're trying to imitate. Every AI model on Earth fits in a fraction of that. The brain runs on 20 watts and fits in your skull. The data center required to merely describe 1/1,000,000th of it would span 140 acres. In other words, as impressive as their work is, the very best brains working in IT have a long way to go before their creations come close to what's inside an ordinary person's head. And yet it's notable that our very best creations are indeed imitations of what we find in biology. That is enough, to paraphrase Aslan, to erect the head of the poorest beggar and to bow the shoulders of the greatest AI engineer on Earth. In fact, every single one of us should always bow in amazement at what the great designer of the universe accomplishes each and every day. But instead, such neurological discoveries like this will often lead our brightest minds further into their own hubris. The amazing storage and calculating capacities of the human mind are just another gap in our understanding, they think, a gap that we've traditionally filled by the religious. The more we learn, the thinking goes, the less we'll need the placeholder fantasy of a creator God, a higher order, or ultimate meaning to life. What's often missed in this analysis, however, are the reductionistic implications of a godless world. In a materialist vision of the human person, the need for community is just herd instinct. Our love for our spouse, bioprogramming to reproduce. We don't really love our children. What we feel is something that Richard Dawkins called the selfish gene. Not only is such a worldview morbid, it's a fallacy that begs the question. As Brian Sickler noted in his book, God on the Brain, and I quote, before we start doing science, can we know ahead of time that no intelligent mind is behind the structures we're going to study? It seems the only way we could know that is if we have reason to think. The only things that exist are the very natural objects we are setting out to study. But how would science show us that? Well, it cannot. The truth is, like artificial intelligence, human intelligence is just far too complex to have ever happened by chance. Like a series of icebergs where there's always more under the surface, the deeper we go in our understanding of creation, especially the human brain, but from brain mechanics to quantum theory, the bigger all those gaps become. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, some pretty heady stuff there. Thank you, John. Outside we go, the always reliable Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life forecast for this afternoon. Generally cloudy, a few sunny breaks, along with a stray sprinkle. Not as cold as recent days. Highs mid-30s to the mid-40s. Tonight, mostly cloudy, low temps, mid-20s to low 30s. Tomorrow, cloudy, rain arriving later in the day, high temps, 40s and low 50s. Saturday, cloudy in the morning, sunny breaks in the afternoon. High temperature Saturday, mid-40s to the middle 50s. Rain will return Sunday. That rain could flip to snow for some Sunday night.
All right, thanks, Kevin. We appreciate it. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Lots to get to. Thursday, March 19th, Iran launched a wave of airstrikes overnight, targeting energy sites in the Middle East. It bombed oil and gas facilities in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar. NBC's Richard Engel.
It has become a war to protect global energy supplies.
Or from CBS's Charlie D'Agata.
The world's largest liquid gas plant, Ras Laffan in Qatar, in flames after Iranian strikes on the facility. The world's largest gas field, South Pars in Iran, among multiple sites attacked by Israel. President Trump angrily berating both sides on social media. No more attacks will be made by Israel, warning if Iran strikes Qatar again, the U.S. will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power Iran has never seen or witnessed before.
War Secretary Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon today promised this is not an open-ended war.
The media wants you to think, just 19 days into this conflict, that we're somehow spinning toward an endless abyss, or a forever war, or a quagmire. Nothing could be further from the truth.
The war in Iran front and center at the White House today as the president welcomes Japan's new prime minister. She is the first woman to ever hold that post. The Trump administration wants Japan's cooperation in securing the Strait of Hormuz in the Middle East. Iran today declared the strait is closed to U.S. shipping. For a second straight day, top U.S. intel officials are giving Congress a global threat assessment. Comes as the Department of Homeland Security remains unfunded. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst says it is time to pay the TSA, DHS, FEMA, and the Coast Guard.
Why are we not funding these agencies that protect Americans?
House lawmakers are hearing today from the directors of the FBI, CIA, and National Intelligence. The president's pick to head up the Department of Homeland Security could be seated soon.
We could see a vote from the full Senate as soon as next week, and we do expect that this will be relatively fast-tracked. We might actually have a situation where we see a new DHS secretary before we see the Department of Homeland Security reopen.
Reporter Nicole Skanga says the nominee, Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, only needs a simple majority to win confirmation. The annual Global Terrorism Index has been published. Tom Morgan with the Institute for Economics and Peace is worried the war with Iran will spark more attacks in the future. He says the radicalization of young men in the West is a growing concern.
If you go back and look at the mid-2000s, the average time for somebody to become radicalized was around 16 months. Now it's dropped now down to less than a year. It can take place in months. In some extreme cases, even weeks.
Morgan says more aspiring jihadists are becoming radicalized online. Still no end to the travel nightmare at U.S. airports.
Abandoned half the TSA checkpoints at Philadelphia's airport. 3 of 6. Too many TSA officers were no-shows.
I hope I make it home.
Ava Carley oozed frustration. Her original flight canceled. Lines at Houston's Bush International Airport out the door.
I'm here 3 hours early, so let's hope that I get through.
At airports in Houston, Atlanta, and New Orleans, more than 1/3 of TSA workers, thousands of them, called out of work.
CBS's Mark Strassman says those workers are calling in sick because they're not getting paid. And they're not getting paid because of the partial government shutdown. California's just recorded the hottest winter day in U.S. history. How about that? Just south of Palm Springs yesterday, it reached a toasty 108 degrees. Phoenix hit 102. Fox weather meteorologist Britt Merman.
We're feeling the heat out west. Oh my goodness. Temperatures are soaring.
spring. And a lot of folks out east might say, well, you're used to the heat in Arizona, but we have to keep in mind it is only March.
This is the earliest ever that Phoenix, Arizona has registered a temperature of more than 100 degrees. It was 94 yesterday in Vegas. The American Heart Association says routine exercise reduces the risk of heart disease by 20%. Only about 1 in 5 adults are getting enough exercise, however, to maintain good health. A late movie star is making an encore with some help from AI.
Before his death last April at age 65, Val Kilmer appeared in movies including Tombstone, The Doors, and Top Gun.
You can be my wingman anytime.
Now, First Line Films says a generative AI version of Val Kilmer will co-star in a film called As Deep as the Grave. The producers say that before his death, Kilmer signed on to perform in the movie but was unable to do so due to his health. They say his estate has given permission for his digital replication and is being compensated for it.
Jennifer Kuiper reporting. You're tuned in to the Noon Report, a Thursday edition on Family Life.
This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm your host, Sarah Harnish. With me, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, Matt Stafer. Thank you for hopping on this week, because what a week it has been for you. You presented the oral arguments to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in the case Zinsky versus Liberty University. Tell me more about that case.
Yeah, this is a case that Zinsky intentionally set up Liberty University, taking female hormones for at least 4 months before applying to Liberty. On the application, he was presented with the very specific doctrinal statement that says God created us in his image, male and female, and that to identify as anything other than the sex God created you at birth is a sin. He ultimately had a plan to keep this quiet for the 90 days, and then after the 90-day probation to reveal this to Liberty. So after the 90 days, Zinsky sent an email to Liberty HR saying that Zinsky had been taking hormones for months and was having observable outward changes and wanted to let Liberty know before those became even more apparent. Liberty had no choice but to maintain faithfulness to its doctrinal position and terminate him. Zinsky then filed suit against Liberty. So the real issue, I think, here is if Liberty has to set aside its doctrinal statement for thousands of different theological versions of its employees, then Liberty has no doctrinal statement. If the ACLU were to win, that means not only Liberty University, but other religious employers would have no ability to hire and maintain employment of employees consistent with their theological and doctrinal beliefs. That would mean that religious employers have literally no religious freedom whatsoever, and that cannot be the law. That's why this case is so critically important.
What happens now?
Well, what happens now is the court will consider this case, make a decision, and it may take several months, after which, when the court issues its decision, if it is favorable to Liberty, which I anticipate it could well be, then the ACLU has the opportunity to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to take the case. On the other hand, if it goes against Liberty, we will certainly, without question, ask the United States Supreme Court to take the case. And if that happens, the Supreme Court could make a decision on this sometime by the end of June of 2027.
I can't even imagine the implications of a decision against Liberty in a case like this. I mean, not just LGBTQ plus, but what if someone walked in and was pro-abortion and wanted to work for a ministry, or was polygamous and wanted to work for a Christian ministry? It's far-reaching.
It's far-reaching. This case, the facts involve LGBTQ, but it's far beyond that, as you note. So, for example, if you have a crisis pregnancy center and someone begins working there and they want to subvert the crisis pregnancy center, and after the 90-day probation, they come out and say, well, you know what, I am pro-abortion. Would that crisis pregnancy center then be forced to continue to have someone who's actually speaking with, counseling, greeting people that are coming to their place that's actually pro-abortion? That's the absurd situation. And it goes beyond just that kind of issue. For example, an atheist that wants to come and join, now they broadcast that they are an open violation, open rebellion of your doctrinal position. That would make the workplace a place of chaos. And that's why you have constitutional protections like the church autonomy doctrine that applies not just to churches but to religious organizations, that government cannot micromanage, they cannot dictate some of these specific theological decisions of churches and religious organizations. That's the issue here, and it's significant, not just for Liberty. It's very far-reaching for every religious employer.
Why is it important for Christians to take a stand. Even when we're talking about taking a stand in the way that you do by walking into a courtroom, why is it so important that our voices are heard in these places?
Take this as an example. Say mother and father, they want to send their child to Liberty University, and they look at the doctrinal statement, and they agree with it. I want to send my daughter, my son to that university that has these specific Christian values. But then when they actually come to campus and they see, well, that's their doctrinal statement, it's in writing, but all their employees are running around with the LGBTQ pride flag. They've got pro-abortion on their T-shirts. That would be a hypocritical situation. I'm not going to send my kid here. What this means is that you can have your faith in print, but you can't actually exercise it. And it's going beyond just Liberty University. It's going beyond an educational institution. It's going beyond a religious employer. It means that people of faith can actually live out their faith in the public sector, in the workplace, in the school environment, in the religious mission and message that you are called to advance. And if we don't have that freedom, which is the fundamental freedom that birthed America 250 years ago, then we have no freedom at all. Religious freedom is the first of our freedoms in the first 10 amendments. And if we don't have that freedom, no other freedoms really matter.
Learn more at lc.org.
Great job, Sarah. Thank you. The name of the program, Faith Under Fire. It comes your way every Thursday during the Noon Report or online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Our next weather maker is a disturbance dropping down from the upper Great Lakes. It will combine with moisture from the Ohio Valley to bring us rain as we head into your Friday night, with unsettled weather to follow for the weekend. For this afternoon, generally cloudy, a few sunny breaks along with a stray sprinkle. Not as cold as recent days. Highs mid-30s to the mid-40s. Tonight mostly cloudy, low temps, mid-20s to low 30s. Tomorrow, cloudy, rain arriving later in the day, high temps, 40s and low 50s. Saturday, cloudy in the morning, sunny breaks in the afternoon. High temperatures Saturday, mid-40s to the middle 50s. Rain will return Sunday. That rain could flip to snow for some Sunday night.
All right, thank you. And spring officially arrives tomorrow. And finally at noon, Finland is still the world's happiest country. What else is new? They've been number one for 9 straight years now. Yeah, the Finns. The World Happiness Report came out today. It gives Iceland the number 2 spot, followed closely by Denmark. I guess it's good to be Scandinavian. The U.S. once again failing to crack the top 10 in terms of happiest country. We came in 23rd this year. And that's our world, the world we live in. Thursday, March 19th. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.